Browns fans, welcome on in to our post-game reaction show as part of the Cleveland Browns on SI. Boy, do we have a lot to talk about. I got to start, though, with saying, as you can see behind me, snow's still falling a little bit, but it is on the ground, which is good news for me because I don't have to worry about getting hit by any sprinklers tonight, Megs. That's maybe the best news of the day, really, is no sprinklers. I'm good.
Yeah.
I'm safe.
Dude, no sprinklers. You look great. This is awesome. I'm gonna jump off the screen real quick because this is football perfection, man. This is exactly how you couldn't hear me. I come off the screen there, but that is perfect. That is exactly what football is.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
tonight was just an awesome. Besides the end of the game, which went in the Browns' favor. Besides all of everything that happened, holy cow, was that cool. It was just a total snow globe inside of Huntington Bank Field. That was awesome. It was awesome to watch. It was awesome to see. I'm a pro dome guy. We didn't even talk about getting to the dome, no dome conversation. I'm a pro dome guy, but holy cow, that was awesome to watch tonight.
Yeah, tonight was one of those nights where I'm sure there's going to be people who that's one of their big takeaways. It's like, oh, see, this is why we don't want a dome. I think people would still prefer to be sitting comfortably and drink Mai Tais while they're wearing polo shirts in a stadium rather than have to sit in the cold. But I mean, this was cool, man. Like I had the luxury. I guess it was a luxury. It was also pretty terrible and treacherous, but I had the luxury to cover Bills Colts back in 2017, like the Snow Bowl in Orchard Park. That game was probably, I would say, ahead of this one just in terms of like the accumulation, the craziness of the game. Like it was a wild atmosphere. But this is a very, very close second. Just an awesome experience all around. One of the coolest games I've covered. One of the coolest games that Browns fans will remember for their lives if they were here, even if they were watching at home. I mean, just all around, everything about this game was pretty freaking awesome. And I think like, yeah, the Browns win and 24-19, and it was kind of an unpredictable, crazy win and not something anybody expected when you're obviously coming in against the team that's leading the AFC North. They're 8-2. But this was like this game, from the weather to the outcome to everything in between that led to the Browns winning the game. It was what people say when they say what they mean when they say AFC North football. It was it was bad weather. It was running the football. It was tough to score. It was cold conditions. Defensive guys making big plays and forcing turnovers, and like nothing came easy in this game. And the Browns really had to earn it. And I mean, just man, what a special night. It stinks that it kind of goes to waste in a season that has meant very little for a while now. But this is the type of game that like reaffirms, yeah, like not everything is completely off the rails here. And we'll get into a little bit more of what I mean by that a little bit later. And that like there's still a team in there that's playing hard and trying to like win football games and make this season feel like it does mean something, even though the playoffs are probably not in their future. So I don't know, man. Like I don't know how anybody walks away. And it's the Steelers. It's the Pittsburgh Steelers. Like it's your biggest rival. You hate that team. There's a rival. It's the biggest rivalry on your schedule every single year. You circle these games, both of them, and they came into your house, kind of being, fat and happy off of the fact that they're 8-2 and they just beat the Ravens this past weekend, and you put an end to that. And now think about what the storylines are going to be tomorrow, Megs. Like tomorrow morning when everybody wakes up, it's going to be all about like, are the Steelers frauds? Are the Steelers really a Super Bowl contender? You put that doubt in people's minds by winning this game. It was just an all-around cool thing, and a sign that this team is clearly not just like completely quit.
Yeah, just really cool. And I'd like to, keep this conversation, at least at the start, focused on the Cleveland Browns, man, because like this is a team that all week long for the past couple weeks, hey, this team's quit, this coaching staff has quit, everyone's getting fired, everyone's getting traded, all of the things, right? Like everything, the sky is falling on this group. But we talked about it, man. They can play spoiler all year long, and you never know. You never know what happens. Yes, they're 3-8. Playoffs are a super long shot. They're not quite eliminated, but they might as well be. But these guys still want to play, and they're trying to win football games. And you saw it tonight. Like this was as good as it gets. And for this game, man, the Cleveland Browns had an opportunity to win a football game, to knock Pittsburgh off of their being the number 1 seed in the AFC. And Spence, let's fast forward our brains to April, right, when it's draft time. I don't care if we're the 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th pick. Doesn't matter to me. If we beat the Pittsburgh Steelers, that's all that matters.
Yeah.
Pittsburgh beat the Baltimore Ravens. I don't care what the heck your record is. I don't care where you're drafted. As long as you beat those teams, that's all that matters. And for God's sakes, for as bad as this year's been, the Cleveland Browns are 2-0 against the Baltimore Ravens and the Pittsburgh Steelers. I didn't ever think I'd say that sentence this year, but it's reality, man, and it's really darn cool.
Yeah, and on some levels, like maybe that's part of what you play for the rest of the season, right? Is like finishing with a winning record in the division, beating your division opponents, that type of thing. We'll see. But man, like this was all around a really cool experience for anybody involved. And I honestly think, like, I want to go back to what Myles said after the Saints game on Sunday, which feels like it was like it feels like it wasn't that long ago. Like it's crazy because it wasn't. But like the last
dude, you were down in New Orleans.
The last 4 days, yeah, I was like wearing shorts and like t-shirts out. Yeah, no, I mean like it's crazy though, like how quickly it feels like time's flown since that game. But regardless, Myles 4 days ago after that game, you know, he answers the question about, you know, what keeps you motivated the rest of the season, and he threw out the word legacy, and it was like, this is good. Like everything you every night when you or every day you step on the field, there's tape roll. You know, like people are going to remember how you played. They're going to remember what you did. They're going to remember if you win, if you quit. Like you want to go out and you want to play hard and you want to play for pride. And he sort of elaborated on it more tonight, like whether it's for your next contract or for to prove that you want to be back in Cleveland next year, whatever it might be. Like find that motivation within yourself. And I'll tell you, man, like he found the motivation within himself tonight because he was incredible. Again, and we continue to ask players, like, is there anything Myles Garrett could do at this point to shock you? And everyone's like, no, not really. Like Juan Thornhill said he could have 10 sacks in a game and he wouldn't be surprised. Like he is incredible. He in a game where you're going up against the Steelers, and Megs, you know how often Myles is kind of quiet for a while, and everyone on Twitter and on social media is like, where's Myles Garrett? Why isn't he showing up? And they're not realizing the context of like, these teams try everything to slow this guy down. And the Steelers tried a lot of different things tonight. They threw a lot of different looks at him, double teams, whatever, chips. He still finished with 3 sacks. And one of them was a strip sack that led to points for the Browns, key points for the Browns, because they only won, obviously, by 5 points in total. And that kind of changes the game at the end there if the Steelers only have to kick a field goal. Guy was in one of these matchups against the Steelers where you're going up against like your direct counterpart in TJ Watt. We know that TJ Watt and him kind of have this little rivalry between each other because they're the guys always jockeying for positioning, which for defensive player of the year, who's the best pass rusher. And Myles made a statement on the field, and then after the game twice on the Amazon Prime broadcast, and then inside that facility, the locker room, the media room to my left, he stood there and he said, I'm the number 1 guy in the NFL. And I heard the more like sort of elaborate answer on Amazon where he was like, nobody gets the looks that I get. Nobody gets the blocking schemes that I get. Like nobody's trying to, I am the number 1 guy. And he says that he established that tonight. And I have a hard time pushing back on that. Like dude was incredible again. And the Steelers really had not a lot of answers for him despite what they tried. And he outplayed TJ Watt, who finished with 4 tackles, 1 tackle for a loss, and not a single sack.
Yeah, and I would say this, we're not, Spence, the show we do is not a national show. This may not get picked up big time, but what I will say, I won't disrespect TJ Watt. I think TJ Watt is spectacular. I think Myles Garrett is unbelievable. And what he said, like you said, I think the coolest part was, like, this has like a UFC feel to it, where it's like these dudes love to go at each other just a little bit. And after the game, Myles literally on the field, direct quote, I got respect for TJ, but I'm number 1. Like it goes through me is exactly what he said. And he proved it tonight. The 3 sacks in the first half not only were cool for that conversation, but in the context of the game, they were incredibly important. That strip sack and the Browns recovering it and turning it right into, even if it was just 3 points, that's huge in a game like this because scoring anything on the Steelers defense is huge. but doing so in that portion of the game to go up 2 scores, I think was massive. And it's just Myles, man. Every time people start to doubt him, it seems like he answers the bell. And tonight was just another great example in that he's so special. We're so spoiled by him because literally from his first snap to this one to his last snap tonight, he's been doing this. And it's something we've come accustomed to. But every week, it's what can 95 do? How can he win this game for you? What injuries is he fighting through? How many blockers does he have to get through to get to the quarterback? And it doesn't matter. Nothing stops him from getting there. And he's just so special to watch.
Yeah, no, I mean, listen, I think you said it well there. And again, TJ is a phenomenal player. I think there's been some times where you could debate one or the other back and forth all day long, and there's some fairness there. And TJ certainly is a great player in his own right. But I do think tonight was a statement for Myles, and it goes back to what I said. Like, he talked about playing for legacy. He certainly played for legacy tonight, and he gets the last laugh after they sort of exchanged some words this week to each other. You know, Myles kind of called him out for sort of undermining his winning defensive player of the year last year. And then, you know, TJ kind of played it political and didn't really say much back. But Myles now made a statement on the field and with his words after the game. And what's great is in 2 weeks, you know, you bring up sort of like you bring up like the UFC feel to it. Like, we're going to get to see him do it again. And maybe TJ Watt has an answer of his own, or maybe Myles Garrett's going to take his game up a notch, which would just be insane. So, yeah, that'll be a lot of fun in 2 weeks to explore that narrative. Another guy we got to talk about, though, Megs, has to be Nick Chubb. 20 carries, 59 yards, the 2 touchdowns, the game-winning touchdown. And on a night where the elements were a factor, and I know he had that great quote during the week where he said, you know, it should always be football weather. I'm not going to say he was like calling out the offensive play caller and Ken Dorsey to like run the ball more, but they certainly made a point in doing that tonight. They were perfectly balanced. 27 pass attempts, 27 rush attempts tonight, and that's rare for Ken Dorsey. Ken Dorsey, it's no secret, like, he loves to throw the football. It was part of the reason he got run out of town in Buffalo was they didn't run the football enough. That wasn't part of their offense. Tonight, he found that part of his offense again, used it to his advantage. Nick Chubb had some okay runs. He had some moments that looked like vintage Nick Chubb, but scoring 2 touchdowns in a game like this, there's, I don't want to say it's the revenge factor, but sort of like the comeback factor of it being against the Pittsburgh Steelers, the team that he hurt his knee against last year. Again, we talked about so many different cool moments from this experience tonight. That might be the top one, honestly. Man. That one's tough to beat. We know what Nick Chubb means to this fan base. You know what he means to the city. To see him pull that off is pretty damn incredible.
It's really cool. 20 carries, 59 yards, the 2 touchdowns, and like how important this is for him to go against the Pittsburgh Steelers. Obviously, Minkah Fitzpatrick was the one who, you know, decided to go low against him last year in week 2. Really just snapped his leg right in half, and we all saw it. You know, everyone, if you're watching this show, you've certainly seen the injury and how horrible that was. And like, he's talked about it. He didn't know if he was ever going to play football again. He didn't know if he was going to be able to walk the same again. Didn't know if he was going to be able to run the same again. Didn't know if he was going to be able to play football. And here he is. Maybe he's lost a step. Maybe we'll have that conversation later on in the year and into the offseason. But tonight, that doesn't matter. What matters tonight is that in this first time back against this Pittsburgh Steelers team, his first opportunity, he scored 2 touchdowns in a game that the Browns won by 5. He was the difference. He was the reason why the Cleveland Browns won the football game, and that in itself is just so special. And Nick Chubb is Cleveland Browns football, and I know the entire fan base is absolutely fired up that that's the way that it felt tonight.
Well, and that's just like the cherry on top of all of this. Like it was a special scene, the snow, everything. It was like a football dream almost, like something that you would lay down in bed and dream up as a young kid, like playing football in your backyard, like, oh, a snow game. You go out and you score the game-winning touchdown with your best player. Yeah. And so, like, I don't know, the Nick Chubb touchdown really punctuated just a memorable and truly special night for a lot of people in Cleveland who follow this team, cheer for this team. It's been such a stressful and disappointing season. To see fans like walking out of here excited and happy and getting the result that they wanted with some of these other narratives that sort of played themselves out. Myles Garrett having a big day, like we alluded to. Nick Chubb scoring the 2 touchdowns in the game winner. Like it all just kind of came together on a sort of eerie AFC North football night. It was again, it just adds into just the aura that this game gives off, and that people go back and watch and be able to tell stories about later.
Yeah. And what I would add, Spence, is that, Nick Chubb means a lot to this football city, right? All of the fans love him, but it's clear that his teammates and his coaches love him. We're going to play a clip here in a second of what Coach Kevin Stefanski had to say about him. But, man, like I just got this thought when you were talking about this. Like, how many kids are going to wake up tomorrow, hopefully have a snow day tomorrow, and are like, hey, put that 24 jersey on and run around with their buddies in the neighborhood and tackle themselves and probably come home with a bloody nose, but say to their mom and their dad, like, I scored the touchdown just like Nick Chubb did, last night. And, I say that and I light up like this because, when I was a kid, when you were a kid, that's what we did, right? That's what we did with Jamal Lewis and all those guys coming up. And obviously Nick Chubb's one of those. But check out what Coach Stefanski had to say about him, because I think this was pretty cool.
Yeah, I've run out of superlatives for Nick, honestly, and he's my favorite player on the team. You can tell everybody else has said that. I have a favorite kid too. She's not here, but Nick does the right thing all the time, and to see what he's gone through to come back and put himself where he is, just to be back playing in the first place, and then to be back out there and performing like he's performing, scoring for this football team when we need him the most. He's a special.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's Kevin said that before, but on a night like this, it carries even more weight. Just a cool thing, and yeah, like I it's hard to describe, man. Like I said, this really was like the scene from a football movie in Hollywood. And you couldn't have scripted it any better for the Browns. Like to the underdog team that no one's given a shot to. I mean, I picked them to lose. I think you're the only one at the site, Megs, who picked them to win. So props to you for that.
I can't hang my hat on it because I think now that I'm.
Do you do that every week though? Is it?
I don't pick us to lose. I was
going to say, Megs just plays the card of like, hey, if I pick him to win every week, at some point I'll be right. So this week he was lucky enough to be right.
It's your favorite gambling site telling them they're plus units on the year, even though they're 1 in 10 throughout the year.
But no, like again, it all just kind of culminated in a pretty cool just scene all around. With the Nick Chubb part of this, the Myles Garrett part of this, the fact that it was the Pittsburgh Steelers, and an AFC North game. Which, by the way, coming into this game, I saw this stat and it almost made me change my prediction. The Steelers are now 0-6.
Mm-hmm.
Under Mike Tomlin on Thursday night matchups against their division, and they are, I think, 2-8, now 2-9 under Mike Tomlin in road Thursday night games just in general. I think I have that 100. I think I have that correct now. But like that kind of made me wonder. Like I don't know. Like maybe these teams just don't play well when they got to go on the road on a short week. I don't like whatever it is. And again, it's the AFC North factor. There's always just some weird voodoo with these games. We didn't think they'd beat the Ravens. They pulled that one off. We didn't think they'd beat the Steelers tonight. They pulled that one off. And like you said, man, like I get that there's a lot of people in draft mode and thinking about what quarterback they should take or what they should do in the first round, whatever, this, that, and the third. But at the same time, I find it hard to believe that any Browns fan isn't leaving this game tonight or sitting at home tonight and taking sort of leaving the draft talk for another day to enjoy at least for a couple days that you beat the Pittsburgh Steelers. It just seems like this town cares too much about this team and they care too much about beating that team to not at least like enjoy this one a little bit. Am I right? I think I'm right about that, right?
You're dead on, Spence. The best example of that, not only is what you said is perfect, but the Browns are 2-8, and there's people lined up down Marginal Road, South Marginal Road at 8 a.m. this morning to get into the Muni lot.
That's correct.
I don't care. This team, we've seen 1-31, we've seen 0-16, we've seen 2-15, we've seen all these things. We've seen the team leave and come back and be horrible. The city's never going to quit on them. And tomorrow, tonight, you see us. Like, holy cow, Spence, me and you right here. This team has robbed all of our fans of this kind of conversation all year because look at us. We're happy, right? This isn't we've presided over too many funerals this year after every one of these games. And now it's like, holy cow, this is fun. This is awesome. The city's going to love it and eat this up tomorrow. And maybe we'll have a draft conversation later on down the road. Or maybe we rip off seven straight. Here we go. Here we go, Spence.
Mason's just talking himself into anything now. Next thing you know, he's going to win the lottery. He's going to be president of the United States. Who knows? The sky's the limit for Megs. He's riding high after this one. Some other Browns fans might feel the same, though, because, again, that's the type of well, Browns winning this town, especially against that team on a Thursday night primetime. And Myles talked about that a little bit, too, like just – you're the only show in town, and it's an AFC North game. It's the Steelers. All those different things played a role in this. I guess some other talking points, because I don't want to belabor the point on that. And there is another big sort of elephant in the room that we got to get to before we sign off. But, like, Jeudy was great tonight. Had the 2 big catches on the last drive, especially one on 4th down, to keep that drive alive and get the Browns in the end zone. I'll also say this, like, there was a lot of talk inside the locker room after this game about a certain Steelers wide receiver that they were calling fake tough. I know Greg Newsome has since tweeted about it. I think you guys can pick up what I'm putting down in that regard. So yeah, like and here's the thing: we talk about the rivalry. This rivalry is better when there is some smack talk between each other, and there's some actual reason why things are a little bit fiery between them. Like we've seen this with the Bengals the last couple of years, where like Jamar Chase and T. Higgins kind of talk a little bit when they have to go up against the Browns secondary. But to have that with the Steelers is a little bit more fun. It's Myles, it's the receivers versus the DBs, it's all those different things. And I'll also say this, like on a night where they win, and I don't want to go too in depth with like the negative here because it's all good vibes for the most part tonight. But it wasn't perfect. There were still some big plays that the defense gave up. Special teams still had some errors. I guess on a positive note on that front, Dustin Hopkins did make all his kicks. He only kicked 1 PAT because they went for 2 a bunch of times, and he made the 1 field goal that he needed to make. So that was all good news. I was actually worried. I was worried that game was going to – it's a good thing they scored the touchdown because I thought for sure it was going to come down to a field goal like from 40 yards out, and he was just going to miss it in the snow. So
there's a couple points we have to get to, but I know exactly what you're talking about. It should have been 4th and 2. Instead – the Steelers, it was that situation in the game where the Steelers accepted the penalty and then they didn't accept it and then they accepted it again. If they would have just kept it 4th down, the Browns would have had an interesting decision because it would have been a 43-yarder into the dog pound, and Dustin Hopkins has been horrible over the past couple of weeks, and they would have had to decide, are we going to kick this or are we not? Instead, they move the ball back. It becomes 3rd and 7, and then Jameis finds Jerry for a 17-yard gain to set up 1st and 10. I think they were outside of 1st and goal. But a huge turning point in the game because if it's me, I'm declining that penalty and forcing the Browns to say, hey, it's 4th and 2. Are you going to go for it or are you going to kick the field goal with a guy who we know for a fact that you don't trust right now? I think the Steelers, that's one where when Mike Tomlin goes back to watch, he's like, maybe I declined that penalty.
Mike Tomlin's usually pretty on top of stuff when it comes to like those key moments like that too. So it was kind of interesting to see how that moment sort of played out and maybe didn't work in his favor. Probably like you said, to your point, I mean, hindsight's always 20/20, but maybe he should have put the Browns in the 4th down situation there and made them decide that they were going to let Dustin Hopkins kick into the tough end of the stadium. But hey, it worked out in the Browns' favor. Jameis Winston made a play. He was great again tonight. I saw he was having another sort of locker room story. He walked out of the locker room to head to the Amazon set and he was singing Jingle Bells. He was loving it. He also had a line about like, am I a Brown now? Like first time against the Steelers, he beats them. He's got the snow, which I'm not sure he's played in a ton of snow in his career. Like just all around, Jameis has embraced wholeheartedly, like even after the whole Deshaun situation where we know what happened against the Bengals where fans were cheering for him. And he obviously went on his rant after the game. Even after that, Jameis is truly, it feels like, embraced like the city, the team, the fan base, and I think that was on like full display tonight. If he's going to ask if he's a Brown, I think fans would say, yeah, if you beat the Pittsburgh Steelers, you're automatically a Brown for life. I think that's probably how that goes.
It's incredible. Here's a direct quote. I'm so happy and grateful that the Lord has blessed me to play in some snow, to be in true football weather in Cleveland, Ohio. Like this dude, he always says the right thing. Every time he opens his mouth, it's a viral tweet. It's a viral quote. It's everything.
The anti-dome people are going to recruit Jameis to be like their pitch man. That's what they're going to do. They're going to be like, Jameis, we need you to argue for why we should keep the roof off the stadium. So there's an idea for you if you're an anti-dome person. Megs, we've put it off long enough. There was a lot of chatter before this game about the future of Kevin Stefanski. It was dispelled by some of the big-time insiders out there. I know Albert Breer has said adamantly for weeks that he has heard Kevin Stefanski's not going anywhere. Adam Schefter sort of confirmed all that again today as well. The sense that I get from what I know, and again, I'm not an insider like them where I have all the information at my hand at a moment's notice, but the feeling that I get, and from what I kind of have understood from conversations I've had, is that, again, there's like not really there's no sense that Kevin Stefanski's job is at stake. I guess that could change if the team really were to like quit. But this narrative that they quit last week or I guess 4 days ago in New Orleans, I didn't think that was true. Guys, it was 14-14 going into the fourth quarter. I get they played a bad fourth quarter. I think it was just a bad fourth quarter. I don't think it was about quitting. I think people saw Juan Thornhill not run on one play, and they were like, this team quit. And Juan actually, by the way, owned up to that. He actually owned up to that and said he needed to run harder on that play. So for whatever that's worth. But in the same vein, though, like, yeah, this team, I don't think they quit, and I think Kevin Stefanski still kind of has this locker room trying to play hard, and they're playing energized and trying to win football games, and that's the most important thing in terms of his job security. I don't think he's going anywhere, and let's be honest, like, after a win tonight, I think that storyline pretty much gets put to bed. Excuse me. Like, there's no reason to believe that Kevin Stefanski is in trouble, and tonight I think shored that up 100%, and nobody should even be asking that question.
Yeah, I'm certainly in the keep Kevin Stefanski camp, because I think he is a good football coach, and I'm also not going to sit here and say and talk down and say that I'm on my high horse saying I've been on this case the whole time. There's some tweets tonight that I fired off that were like, hey, this is a bad football team. And there was some times that the Browns were not great tonight, and they could have slipped away. And if it did slip away, this would have been a very, very, very bad loss for them. But a stat that I love was sent to me by my buddy, Brian Dicko. Shout out BD. Since Kevin Stefanski, this comes from Dan Murphy, the Browns PR guy. Since Kevin Stefanski was hired as head coach in 2020, the Browns are 26-14 at home, including an 11-4. That's an 11-4, a 73% win percentage at home against AFC North opponents. Obviously tonight, a home game against an AFC North opponent, our most hated AFC North opponent. I think it is keep Kevin Stefanski in my mind. Keep him. Yeah. Keep Jameis Winston. See what you can build. I don't think that makes you a Super Bowl contender, but it makes you a competitive team, and we've seen it in the past. If you're a competitive team in 2025, and I don't know what happens the rest of this year, you can play spoiler to a couple teams that have their hopes set on the Super Bowl. But if you can just get into the dance with a guy like Kevin Stefanski and a quarterback like Jameis Winston, who knows? Who knows what can happen? Yeah, and I guess overall the general point here is it was a good night for Browns fans overall, but a bad night for Browns fans who have been banging the drum to fire Kevin Stefanski. Because I don't think that's happening. I don't think that was ever happening. I don't really know where that narrative came from. I thought the Mike Vrabel thing was blown out of proportion as well. Guys, like, Mike Vrabel has been on the sidelines for several weeks now, and all of a sudden, like, people noticed an earpiece, and it was like, oh, he's got an earpiece. He must be calling the play. And like, no, guys, like, that was never a thing. It was just a decision that they made to have him on the sidelines after he had said that he wasn't going to be maybe around on game days as much, and it is what it is. But I never looked at that as a reason why Kevin Stefanski was going to get fired. I still don't get that sense. I think there's a conversation to be had moving forward about Andrew Berry and just the roster construction and kind of where they're at with that. But I have no reason to believe Kevin Stefanski's job on the line. And let's be honest, after tonight, that storyline's dead. So let's just give that up. All right, guys, that's going to do it for us. It's late. Go get some sleep. We appreciate those who stayed up to sort of tune in with us. I encourage you to head on over to the Cleveland Browns and SI YouTube channel, like, follow, subscribe, review, post a comment. We have most of the post-game conversations and press conferences over there. Obviously, this video is there. Other content like this is up there. And I also encourage you to head on over to Cleveland Browns on SI or si.com/NFL/Browns to check out all of our written content. We got you covered with what Myles Garrett said about him and TJ Watt and being the #1 edge rusher. We got comments about George Pickens and actually comments from George Pickens, if we're being honest. So all that is available to you. We implore you, as always, to keep on following along.
with all things Cleveland Browns with the Cleveland Browns on SI. For Anthony Moeglin, I'm Spencer German, signing off from a snowy Huntington Bank Field. Hold on one second, guys. This is real. Bye-bye.